Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of BUCH Cast. We have something very special for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the current real estate market and where it's trending. And we have two local experts here. One is Vadim Barash, who we had on before. He's a broker, has 30 years of experience in real estate. And another one is a local business owner who's been in real estate for 20 years as well. They both have very different views on the current market. So I guess let's hear from them. Alex, do you want to start? Where do you think the current market's heading, and where do you think we stand?
I think the current market is heading to, downside, because right now a lot of houses are overpriced, and most people betting on equity. If they buy a house, the house is gonna go up, and I think the most dangerous thing that a lot of folks buying the houses that they cannot afford. So if somebody can afford a house, they buy in a house, that's totally fine. But if people buy in a house and they cannot afford, they put in themselves in very dangerous situation.
Okay. Vadim, how about you?
I think we probably will see another 48 month of the market chart going this way. I think you're going to see probably little longer time on the market. It's not going to be like an hour or two. It'll be maybe 2 weeks. I think you're going to see probably about a 5 to 9% price adjustment at a 48 month peak. And then from there, it's just going to continuously incline for about 5 to 8% a year.
Got you. Okay. First question for you guys. Are we in a bubble? And why or why not do you guys think so? Who wants to start with that one?
Gentlemen?
Go ahead.
No, I'll let you go first.
Okay, I would not really call it a bubble, but I would call it that my market is unstable. So looking at Zillow, and I'm going to just do Zillow as an example. Zillow stocks were going up. The highest was on February 16, it was over $203 a share. And the reason it was so high because they invested over $9 billion in real estate. They were starting to buy houses, sell houses, so they were making good money. And shares were going up for Zillow because of real estate housing market. Yesterday I checked Zillow, it was $54 a share. So between February and yesterday, it's a 73% drop. So my question is that possible that housing market can drop as much as 73%? And if it does, are you going to be able to afford the house? If question is yes, you can afford the house, that's totally fine. But if you're not going to be able to keep a house if you're underwater, that's another story.
Vadim, how about you?
So I want to talk about Zillow first. So Zillow, I believe, has been in existence at this point for almost 19 years, maybe 20. So since the day Zillow opened its doors, 19 and 20 years ago, they've never been profitable, ever. They've never made, as far as I know, a balance sheet where they were in the black as a company. That's first of all. Second of all, if you really look at Zillow, you have to realize where their profit is. Their profit is it's selling data. They're not a real estate company at all. They are not a real estate company. So looking at Zillow as a real estate company is at its core a wrong assumption. They're a data company. They collect data and they sell data. The money that they make, their 99.9% of income up until about 2018 was selling data to general public and to realtors. The data that they sold to realtors came in the form of all the people that came to Zillow to look for a home and asked information about the home and then that data was sold to realtors. And it would cost $5,000 to $10,000 a year per zip code to get those leads, and you were never allowed to only have one zip code, meaning there was at least 3 people per zip code. So data got diluted. That was their income. That's what they made money on, not real estate. Over the years, multiple things happened. Okay. First one is real estate community in general starts saying, we're not paying Zillow anymore. They're stealing our data. So the amount of revenue coming into Zillow from people that were number one purchaser of their data declined by almost 40%. In 2016, 17, and 18, it just kept going down. Their profit margins became none. That's number one. Number two, they got fried in general public's view for Zestimates. They were so wrong. All their Zestimates were all wrong. And the general consumer said, if these numbers are wrong, what else is wrong? So they had to go fix that. Then, of course, as the people stop paying less, the revenue start decreasing. Their stock keeps going like this, always. Always. They've decided in 2018 start a program that's called the buyer program. And the buyer program came in the form of us, Zillow, buying homes.
It's called iBuy.
Correct. We're going to buy these homes, and we're going to buy them from you very quickly for low money, blah, 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 blah. It never came to Ohio. It never came to a lot of states. That was their desperate way of saying, maybe if we invest in real estate, we can show people that we're profitable and we have revenue. And then the market uptick and investors said, that's a great idea. So the stock went up. So in February of this year, when you look at their stock at $200 a share, they were at the peak of their iBuying program where they had all this property. Okay? Now, going all the way back to the beginning, I will say that if once you're a good business owner and you've been profitable, you never want to go broke. Once you make the profit, you never want to go broke. But if you've always been broke and you never made profit, going broke over and over and over again is okay because you don't know what profit is. That's Zillow. They bought all these homes. They overpaid for all of them. They spent way too much money. They had no management software. Half of them sat vacant and didn't rent. Didn't make any revenue from them. And as of 5 weeks ago, they've sold all of them. They're all on the market to be sold. They stopped the program completely. So now that they've stopped this program and have lost a lot of money, almost $260 million.
And they project to lose another 550 in
Correct.
the third quarter.
Correct. Because they never managed it right, never made a single dollar out of it, never resold any of them. I'll tell you more. As of this morning, it's funny you bring that up. As of this morning, I don't know if you heard this yet or not, Zillow is in contract to sell to general consumers, people like us that want to just buy a home. Almost 4,000 contracts are out there to general consumers. And I think they're getting some sort of a bankruptcy coming their way. So all these sales are canceled. So if you're a guy we're buying their home, today you can't buy it. They're going to give you a deposit back. Goodbye.
So what's going to happen with all the homes that they own? Still over 7,000 homes.
They're going to all either go in receivership and get sold off to the market. They're going to go back to the market.
But they're going to go back to the market somehow.
They are going to go back to the market.
Property.
They're not. Let me tell you why they're not going to go as distressed. They were buying all of them at 18% below market. All of them. The formula was right. The formula overall was right. They're buying them low enough. That's why they never came to Ohio. What do you buy 18% below in Ohio? It doesn't exist. Everything goes up every 6 days, 8%. You can't come in here and buy at 18% below. It doesn't exist. Mathematically impossible. So Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, you've got to remember when the bubble bursts. So to answer your question, are we in a bubble? No. When a bubble bursts, it doesn't burst in one state. Never happened. The bubble bursts across the entire country. The whole thing falls apart. Okay? So just because they are stupid and bought a bunch of homes in New York and California and overpaid for them, and if there's going to be influx of inventory in New York or maybe in California, guess what's going to happen in Ohio? Nothing. Zillow owns no homes here. Zillow owns no home in Kentucky. Zillow owns no houses in Texas, maybe in bigger neighborhoods. So the market doesn't get flooded.
So your belief is that the drama that's been going on with Zillow has nothing to do with the real estate market, correct?
Zero. Never has.
Okay. Okay. Let's go on to question 2. We at Butch Group were not around during the 2008 2009 fiasco with housing crisis, but you both were active during that time and were investors during that time. What similarities or differences do you guys see between the housing crash of '08 and now?
You go first.
I go first. I don't see a crash coming, so there's no similarities.
So what's different now than what was in 2008 that won't cause a crash?
Everything's different. Everything's different. Nothing's the same. I'll give you 5 examples. Okay. So first of all, the lending part. In 2007, you could walk in a bank and say, I just bought this beautiful house. I shouldn't have ever bought because I can't afford it. But they gave me a loan anyway. And I would like to borrow against that house up to 120% LTV. Give me more money because I want to finish my basement, buy my wife a coat, and get myself a car. And they were like, oh, this house is going to appreciate so much more in the future. And your job is going to be amazing in the future. Here's 125% LTV loan, goodbye. You just killed your equity for 10 years. They don't do that anymore.
But it doesn't very similar.
It doesn't exist. You will not get more than 70% LTV. I guarantee you, on any investment properties. 75 if you're lucky, if your credit score is 820 and you have a lot of cash in the bank.
But I see a lot of people buying houses and they are pre-approved for, logically speaking, I do not know how they can afford the house. Like we had a family bought a house, $240,000. She works for us $18 an hour. And they told them that husband doesn't even need to be a co-signer because her income is enough on W-2. So how are you supposed to afford $240,000? I mean, they put only 5% down payment on that with $18 an hour.
Okay, so first of all, I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. I have no idea who the lender is. I have no idea if they have $10 million in the bank. I don't know these. I don't know these people. Here's what I do know. We sold last year over 1,500 houses. Okay, we deal typically with probably 30 different lenders, maybe 40. I just refinanced my personal residence second home in Florida. I just went through that myself, and I'm using a normal lender. It's a friend of mine. I know these people. It's a company that I have interest in. I went through hell to get them everything they needed to get that done. The amount of paperwork that was requested, especially post-COVID. Now post-COVID, the rules are so much tighter than they were 24. I think COVID's been great for real estate, period. There is nothing negative in real estate from COVID. The lending requirements got even tighter. They're double checking your employment the day before closing. They're calling to make sure the money is still in the bank. They're still requesting the last 2 pay stubs.
But what is they giving you debt to ratio? Like before it used
even
to be
lower.
Like 36.
No, it's even lower now. It's the debt to ratio income. Let me give you an example. These are live numbers. I'm refinancing a property that's worth $1 million and borrowing $328,000. My LTV is more than 60%. The bank has zero risk, nil. And they're still requesting pay stubs and information from the last 2 days because they don't care about my LTV. They're looking to see everything's still the same. The rules are stricter than they ever were.
Yesterday, I had a friend visited me. He said, I got pre-approved for $750,000. He said, bank is, he said, I didn't believe it. I told bank, okay, can you give me in writing? And they gave him in writing that he is pre-approved $750,000. I asked, how much do you make? He said, under $100,000. He said, honestly, I don't think I can afford $750,000 house, but bank thinks I can. So I'm glad that he's smart enough to know, but a lot of people, they trust what banks tells them, and they do not really take to consideration all the remodeling aspects, any maintenance on the house. They don't take it to consideration property taxes, that it may or may not go up or down, and that usually based on the property value. So if they bought a house much more than it used to cost, most likely their property taxes will go up next year, and it most likely their payment gonna go up next year. And a lot of people putting them in situation that they buying homes that they cannot afford. So if you look at the chart, for example, income, a median income in United States, and you compare that chart to medium housing chart, so there is big, maybe 1985, 1990, it was almost relevant the same. But now there is big disconnect between the housing prices and an income. So prices on houses went up. So pretty much that chart is 7.5 times more than it used to be in 1985. So pretty much it's 7.5 times easier for buying a house before, or to afford the house, than right now. So I don't see how people, or they need to get more money, their salary has to go up, or the houses has to go down, or two families would have to share a house in order, to afford it with their regular mortgage. If they have money saved up, it's different story.
I do not know anyone like that. I have not met anyone in the process of the last 3 to 4 years of this market where somebody came and said, I think the bank is approving me for more than I can afford. That's number one. Number two, are there stupid people out there? Millions. There are a million of stupid people out there. They will do things that they buy things they can't afford, and overextend themselves and have no savings and have no investments. I understand that. Okay, I think that's in every market, bubble or no bubble. There are people that do stupid stuff. In my opinion, the lending process. In my opinion, the qualification process. In my opinion, the LTV part of it. So first of all, like your friend with the $700,000 house, well, that cannot be an FHA loan. FHA limits are 460, okay? So with that being said, he's got to put 10% down.
Yeah, 10%
Okay,
down.
so he's got to have $70,000 in savings.
Yeah.
So he has to have other assets and other availability of funds for bank to look at it all and say you qualify. So if your friend says, I don't want to put $70,000 down, he ain't buying a $700,000 house. If your friend can't show them liquidity to have a bigger home than that, he has to have other things that lead the bank to say this is your maximum. Now go figure out how comfortable you are. So here's the reality. Typically people in $700,000 price range, it's going to sound silly what I want to say next, probably know their financials. They're not stupid. They're not going to make stupid decisions.
And he doesn't want to buy that.
Right, so he'll buy a house that he thinks he can afford.
Yes.
Right? And that's your typical person in that price range. People that make stupid decisions probably shouldn't buy a house. They shouldn't even be sitting in front of the lender. Okay? And typically people like that are so strapped for money, in today's market, they can't do the appraisal gap. They can't put non-refundable deposits. They can't have escalation clause in cash. The ones that only have to put 5% down and they're strapping themselves this long are losing every contract. They're not buying. They're not a buyer. They're a dream or a pipeline that the bank said, maybe you can afford this. In reality of the market today, they're not buying a home. What's happening today is people that are winning these bids and buying these homes all have money. They have to have either hard cash from grandma and grandpa, or they have to have, here's the other best part. How many times you get appraisals that come in lower before the number is? There's appraisal gaps are in there for a reason. If every house appraised today the way it's supposed to, like it used to be back in 2007, you would never see appraisal gap clause. It would never reappear. Why would you have appraisal gaps? Banks back in the day, that's the number 2 rule, besides the lending practices will give you 130% LTV. The second thing that's changed is the appraisals. They're tighter and tighter and harder. Much harder than they were in 2007. That's why we see the appraisal gap. Hey, if it doesn't appraise for what you're supposed to buy, the bank says we're out. And if you, the consumer, have $60,000 extra to put down, let it be your problem, not mine as a bank. And if you have grandma and grandpa that says, here's $60,000, go ahead and put it down, But see, if you put the 60,000 down, okay, this is why I think this conversation is silly. If you put the 60,000 down because of the appraisal gap, and you have the money from grandma and grandpa, and even if you overpaid for the house, you now have things we didn't have in 2008. Equity. The 2008 bubble happened because nobody had equity. Everybody was maxed out. Everything was selling at hard numbers.
But how do you know you have equity? I mean, what about if equity is there today and, in 3-4 months equity is gone?
How can it be gone? Explain.
How? Because I believe that the reason housing market is so hard right now because the government did a forbearance foreclosure program. So if you look at the history, usually typical, you said the people who cannot afford the house, they stopped making payments, so bank foreclosed and those houses were sold on auction. So there are still those people who not paying for the house, but it's not foreclosed because bank cannot foreclose because some people have up to 18 months to stay for the house before bank can even start foreclosure. So there is a lot of houses that typically would be sold on auction. They are not.
Okay.
But that time is coming, and soon those houses gonna be flooded the market. Another example, a lot of companies like Zillow, they started to invest. A lot of flippers, they do not know what you're doing. You brought a really good point that Zillow didn't know what they're doing, but they started to invest in the house. So if you have, let's say, 3 buyers for the same house, what goes with the price goes up. So it's demand and supply. So if you had a lot of investors who had this idea that if they invest in the house, they have instant equity, it's easy money, and they put cash offer, the price goes up. But now if you have those investors who says, okay, we decided it was a mistake, we're not going to buy houses anymore, we're going to liquidate them, what happens to supply? Supply goes up and then prices goes down. So now we're going to have people who bought houses who cannot afford, yet they are still paying because they bet in on equity. But once we're going to have foreclosures coming up, we're going to have more houses for flips. Price is going to start going down. And
I so pray to God. What I'm going to say next is going to sound so bad. I hope you're right.
I hope I'm wrong.
And I hope you're right. And I tell you why I say I hope you're right. If you're right, we're going to fix the whole affordability problem.
Yeah.
I hope you're right. I hope we help millions of people go back to it. In my opinion, it's a pipe dream. And let me tell you why. So you're a smart guy. I'm going to ask you this question. You bought a house 4 years ago, 5 years ago, before all this craziness, 6 years ago. You pick a neighborhood. You tell me, what neighborhood would you buy in? If you were a smart guy, where would you buy?
Before I was buying in Hilltop where nobody wanted to buy.
Is a homeowner.
Oh, homeowner.
Is a homeowner.
Homeowner.
Is a homeowner.
Like Dublin.
Perfect. What's the price range? Give me a price.
Before or now?
Any price. You give me a price.
Okay, 500,000.
Okay. So in 2014, 5-6 years ago, you woke up in the morning and you're like, man, I'm going to really stretch myself. I'm going to go to a very tiny limit. I can't even afford it, but a bank's giving me the money. I'm going to go to Dublin, to Ballantrae, there, and buy in Ballantrae a $500,000 house. Okay? You get in this house in 2015, and then you spend another $50,000 remodeling it. You want to get a new bathroom and whatever. So you have $550 in this house in Ballantrae in 2016. COVID happens. You lose your job. You can't afford your house anymore. And you stretch so thinly that you have no money. And then forbearance program comes. You don't have to pay. That's fine. Stay for 18 months. Everything you just said.
Let's say I'm still staying there.
You're still, yes, you're still there. You're still there.
My house is not even foreclosed.
It's right. You're still there. It's your home. Let me ask you a question. If I told you today, hey, let's sell this thing for $725. You can take $100,000 and get the hell out, pay the bank off, no foreclosure, no problem, and move on. Would you?
But that's exactly what people did in 2008 when they took negative authorization loan, when they had
You still
minimum
have
payments.
you
They were
still
betting on equity. They
you
were
still
betting
you
on
still
equity.
have you still have a ton of equity in your home right now, and before market crashes.
Yeah, because market between 4 years and now it went up. What about if between now and 4 years
So why
later
wouldn't you? Why would you wait for someone to throw you out? Why wouldn't you make 100,000? Is what I don't understand.
I mean, as right now you can, but if
Wait, but why would you risk it? Why would you risk it to know that you have 3 months left on your forbearance, and then you're going to get evicted in 90 days? You're going to have a foreclosure on your record. Why wouldn't you sell
I would
it?
want to sell it, but if, for example, you gave me, it happens to, let's say, a few million people and a lot of houses going on market, then
But they're all in
automatically you have
different.
more
They're all
supply.
in different price range. We're probably about 7 years out of inventory. We could use that, and still have enough buyers left. You do understand that every house gets 20 contracts, right?
And why is that?
Because there's no inventory. So what happens to those 19 more buyers?
Okay, but
So wait.
so-
So once the 19 buyers disappear,
Okay, but
and there is 5 more buyers come in, so you used to have 20 buyers, now you have 28 buyers and still no houses. Give me every house you have on the market, every foreclosure, every forbearance, I still have 100 buyers.
okay, but let me ask you this: from those 20 offers, how many offers are people who was buying house as a single, I mean, as a principal residence, and how many of them as an investors?
20 are still principal interest and maybe 3 are investors. Maybe. And if I'm looking to sell a home, I'm going to take the best offer I can get. And if it's from a residency, great. If it's from an investor, great. I don't care. The house still goes on the market. There is not 25 investors and 25 people that want to buy.
Okay, but why are we in low inventory? Are we having more people? More people.
We don't
coming
build
to
houses
United
right now.
States. I mean, what about 5 years ago? We were okay with inventory. How come we are too low? I mean, immigration stopped. We barely had any immigrants.
I'll give
in.
you a good answer.
Like,
for that.
I mean, is our population increasing? I mean, usually if they build a house, they don't demolish as many homes.
I agree.
But if you look, they building houses left and right everywhere. So, I mean, yeah, we're saying inventory is too low, and that's exactly what they said in 2008, 2006. I used to live in San Francisco, in Idaho. They said there
I'm
is
sorry.
no more land. They
I'm
said,
so sorry you lived in San Francisco.
I mean, by San Francisco, but
Okay.
they said there is no more land to build. The house is never gonna go down because it's always gonna increase. And I mean, I had this idea that, I mean, in other states it may go down because there is a lot of place to build. But I mean, around Bay Area there is no place. But guess what? 2008 happened and it did go down. So everybody who said it's not gonna go down because you cannot make more land, somehow, I mean, prices went down. So same thing, you look at history, like gas, maybe 10 years ago, they said gas gonna go up all the time because we're gonna run out of oil soon, this and that. And then when COVID hit, you could get oil almost for free. They didn't know what to do with it. And now gas is expensive again. So my point is everything goes up and down.
Without a doubt.
So, but if you bet in on equity, that's very dangerous.
And I
game.
don't think real estate is going to continue going 40% up. It's not what I said. In the very beginning, I said we're going to have 48 months where we're going to see this, and then it's going to go a little lower, and it's going to start losing about 5 to 8% maybe of equity. You're not going to have 40% increases or 20. You probably get to a normal 8%, maybe 6%. That's what's going to happen. There's going to be no bubble
But
bursting.
even if you increase 6%, now if you sell in a house, you're losing almost 12% because typical real estate agent charges 6%. So you pay 6 when you buy and you pay 6 when you sell. So now pretty much you have to wait 2 years before you even break even. Plus you have to pay a loan.
But you're looking at it as an
origination fee.
investor. People don't buy houses every 2 years.
No, I understand. But
Typical America moves in and stays 7 to 10 years. You're looking at it as, this
that's
is kind of...
people who can afford the house. But before you were saying equity, that if he cannot afford, he can sell it.
Right now he
So
can, yes.
Now if, let's say the same example, if I buy $500,000 house and let's say in a year I lose my job, I cannot pay, and then I wait till banks
But right now
start
it's
foreclosing.
720. So wait. So right
Okay,
now it's
now it's-
720.
okay,
So you
great.
think it's going to go back to 5?
I mean, it may not go back to 5, but if I buy for 720 and let's say in a year something happens and you cannot come to me and say, hey, let's sell your house 900,000 because it may worth only 600,000.
Okay.
So, and then I'm going to tell you, Vadim, buy my house. You're going to say, why should I buy your house if you are underwater? If your
But do you
mortgage
remember
is
the most
high?
important thing? If you paid 7 for it, okay, You put at least 72,000 down.
Okay, so let's say I put, so my mortgage is
Okay,
six.
so it's not even that, right? So you put money down.
Yes.
Number two, you just said, we're going to have a market to where, let's say, it increases by 4 to 5%. So even if it increases 3% over a period of 2 years, you're gaining 6% of what you paid for it. So now let's say your house is worth 600 or 630, and you have 100,000 in it or $72,000. You never had 10% truly. I mean, you're putting more down. So if at the end of the day, you're not going to lose what people lost in 2008. Not hundreds of thousands of dollars. If somebody's going to lose 10 grand to get out of a home in that price range, I mean, maybe. I mean, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to say you're right. You're right. There's going to be a huge drop, but that drop is not going to be from where you have no equity or you have 130%. Here's the problem. In 2008, what happened was people that bought homes that should have never had them, it wasn't that there was no equity in homes. They were mortgaged to the tilt. There was no money down. People got mortgages with zero money down. They bought houses that were at peak of the price with no money down.
They did, but some people, like I had a client who bought a house in 2004. He put a 20% down. And when I sold his house in like 2007, he had to bring $12,000 to closing.
Mm-hmm.
Just to, because there is a price to sell a house.
Mm-hmm.
So if let's say you bought a house for, let's say, $650, and if you want to sell it for the same price, you do not get $650 back because there is a lot of expenses involved. So you typically probably, I would say 7-8% it costs you to sell the house, because after you pay real estate commissions, you have to pay title insurance, you have to pay sometimes appraisal, this, and I mean, all of that. So it's not so you have to have at least 10% equity in your house to break even if you sell.
I'll tell you, I really believe that if we flood the market with 7,000 listings tomorrow,
Not tomorrow, but in 3-4 months.
I will hope it happens in one day. There'll be a lot of happy people. There's a lot of people that need homes and they cannot find them.
So question for you, Vadim. What do you think has to happen for prices in real estate to go down?
I don't think they're going to go down. I think they're going to stabilize.
And that's exactly what they used when I was a real estate agent in 2008. They said, do not even mention that prices go down. Say market is leveling, market is stabilized.
It's going to stabilize. That's what it's going to do. And I tell you what I mean by stabilizing. I don't know what they meant in 2008 by telling you it's going to stabilize. We all saw it coming. We all knew it. Look, let's talk about 2008.
I mean, not all, because if all would
Wait,
see it,
let's
banks
talk-
would
let's
not
talk-
give it money,
let's
right?
talk about
I mean,
two- let's
banks
talk-
are not stupid. They would
let's
not
talk about
lend
2008.
money if they would see it.
Let's talk about 2008. In 2007 really, I had about 300 realtors that were working for me. We sold in 2000, I want to say maybe 5 or 6, the peak of the market, 6,000 homes a year. We would push, close to $1 billion worth of sales every single year between 2005 and 2007. Like when the peak of the market was happening, okay? Every person that was doing business at that time knew that you cannot give loans to people that don't have any money, that never have to bring a pay stop, they don't have to have documents, and the houses were selling at a peak of a market 10 to 20% higher than they should appraise. And the appraisers were coming in and saying, we'll appraise it at the contract number. And everything was appraising. Everyone that's been in the business long enough knew that that was going to end. Everybody. And if you talk to, I don't know what banks were thinking. I have no idea who was bribing who in a big scale, and the big guys and all the big corporations. Everybody on the ground. All my investors, people that were buying homes, people that had huge portfolios, all knew it was ending.
So let me ask you this. You said you sold 6,000 homes. Why didn't you advise against it? Why didn't you say, hey, guys, market is about to crash, don't buy the house?
It's not my call. It's not your call. It's not anybody's call. The reality of the matter is if consumer chooses to go do something
And why, if they knew that market is going to go down? Why did they still
I don't think the
bought
consumer.
6,000 homes if everybody knew it's going to go down? I mean, are those 6,000 people were stupid, or
No,
they had no knowledge?
They all still have their houses. These are normal people like you and I waking up in the morning and saying, "I'm going to go buy a home." It doesn't mean that they were all bad. It doesn't mean they all shouldn't have bought a home. What are you implying somehow that people should have just all stopped buying houses?
No, I'm not implying all. I'm implying that to use a 25% pretty much ratio. If, let's say, you make $100,000, right? So if you want to be safe, don't have your payment more than $25,000 a year.
And there are people.
That way you're gonna be safe. But if you maximize your spending, and let's say you go up to 50% on payments, that, I mean, you put in yourself in dangerous situation, because I mean, if something happens, you're not gonna be able to afford
But out of those
payments.
6,000 people we sold houses to, not everybody foreclosed or lost it. I mean,
Because in Ohio prices haven't go down as much as in another
I don't
states.
think people in those 6,000 people. I don't even know anybody in our group that ever lost a house.
Yeah, because Ohio, it's one of the, I mean, especially Columbus, that prices haven't dropped as much, like Seattle or New York,
See,
California
we're
or
just
Idaho.
so we're discussing completely two different markets. I mean, you're discussing a market where, in my opinion, it's not real America. There, I said it. California market is not real America. New York market in Manhattan is not real America. Chicago, Lincoln Avenue, and Magnificent Mile is not real America. That is not what you base your situational markets on.
But those markets, they do dictate on other markets.
I think what they do is that they make people fearful. I think they make people leery. I think banks pay attention. But I don't think people in the last 5 years have done that in New York. New York during COVID got bad. People start running. Prices are still the same. It's bouncing back from what I hear. I don't have any money in New York. Stronger than ever. I have friends of mine in LA that are really successful that say that you could have a bridge with hundreds of homeless people under it. You drive under the bridge into a neighborhood in LA and houses. Are we talking about this room? Like, still $3 million. And you can't get one. But to me, it's not indicative of real America. I think it's insane markets.
Yeah, but a lot of markets, I mean, you brought up New York. I have a friend who lives in New York, and he said that he doesn't remember in history of his life that, like, in order to rent a place, you could get, let's say, free rent or no deposit. He said during COVID, what they did, they were giving you 2, 3, sometimes up to 4 months
Sure.
free rent. But in order to show the numbers that, how much it rents for. And I did that too in 2000, like when I wanted to sell a property and I wanted to show the higher rent. I mean, it's really easy to do because you give them last months or 2 last months free, and you raise up the rent a little bit. So overall, if they do the numbers, let's say typical rent is supposed to be $900. I mean, you can rent for $1,000 and say, you have 2 or 3 months free rent. And now if investor looking at the income, he looks at $1,000, not $900, but in fact it's not really $1,000. So in New York, what people started to do, they still kept the rent the same, but they were offering few months free. So when investor looking at to purchase the property, he sees the numbers and then he's still willing to pay the higher price. That's why you don't really see the numbers, but they are there.
I don't know anything about it. Again, to me, New York is not a real market. I would never look at New York or California as a real market. There's America and people that I deal with that make good incomes, buy normal homes. We negotiate real deals on paper. We don't make phone calls and throw out millions. That's not real America. I mean, I understand that people that invested in Seattle and Silicon Valley real estate and San Francisco real estate and San Diego real estate, and they're of course investors like that. I don't know anything about it. And I'll tell you why. It's not in my realm of things to know how money gets moved around in New York and Seattle and other places, because again, it's not indicative of my investors in real America. I deal with people that buy portfolio homes, 30, 40 in a portfolio. They run their numbers tight. They look at 70, 30% ratios. They will look at every lease. They'll read every piece of paper. They'll inspect them all. These are people with real money from a real bank. They have a line of credit that gets reevaluated every year. These are real businesses. I don't know about people that take a flight and risk everything to figure out a way how to get in real estate. As it pertains to regular consumers, like normal people that go buy normal houses, we are 7 years behind in inventory for regular consumers. So to me, if there is a market adjustment, crash, bobble, whatever that may be, and we get some inventory, is great. Is it going to affect overall investment for people that are in the houses right now? All I could tell you, if you're in a house now and you're in forbearance and you can't afford it, now is the best time to sell it and put the more money in your pocket than ever. So put it on the market.
Okay. Last question for you guys. To do with us as realtors. Where do you think there will be a need for realtors in 10, 15, 20 years? And why or why not?
You go, that's your turn.
I mean, I do not know if I'm right, but I think with technology, I think somebody gonna develop the platform, and I mean, we probably still gonna have real estate agents, but not. I mean, it's not gonna be as high demand as right now. I mean, I'm gonna give you an example for, let's say, taxi. If you go to New York, which is not real America, let's say they call the New York City kings of taxi, right? And
Right.
if you take the history medallion, people, they said it's one of the safest investment to buy a medallion to operate your taxi. And it used to be like 200,000 and 300,000 and went all the way up to 1.3 million. So people were taking actually loans, like almost like mortgages, and having some business owners had 5, 6, 8 medallions, and they were making a profit till Uber came in. And when Uber came in, I remember that even driving a taxi in New York, they said, oh, they're never gonna succeed because we are professionals. We know city over here. We have insurance. We have special license. I mean, why would you go in to car for the stranger that you do not know, this and that, But everything changed now. Those people who own Medallion, they did a couple of weeks ago hunger strike because they said, I mean, we need a bailout because we are not able to make payments. A lot of them, I think they even had like 2 or 3 suicidal over that. So city were helping them, but they wanted more money. So the medallion is not worth 1.3 million. I mean, I do not know how much it worth, but I mean, demand for taxi driver went down. Like other day I was flying with my wife from Seattle, so I talked to a gentleman next to me. We were talking about it, and I said, would you drive taxi or Uber? He said, of course Uber. And I said, but they already raised up prices. Before they were much cheaper than taxi. Now they are actually charging more money than taxi. He said, so what? Why would I trust taxi if I do not know who's coming on Uber? I at least can see the driver. I can cancel before he comes in. It's much more convenient. So my point is, with technology, like as today we're saying, I mean, real estate agents never gonna be replaced because we have a lot of knowledge, this and that. But I think somebody gonna develop the platform that you're gonna be able to go in, and if you wanna list a house, you're gonna choose the services. And if you wanna, let's say, hire a professional photographer, it's gonna give you a list and it's gonna show you the price based on square footage. You want to put a yard in your sign. I mean, everything going to be run by maybe bigger corporation, almost like Amazon, doing deliveries, all that. So regular retail stores are still here, but a lot of them are closing because Amazon is taking the market. So I think slowly the market of real estate agents is going to be replaced by some kind of, platform. That's my opinion.
I agree with him.
Okay.
All right, at least we agree in something.
Good to end on
So make all your money while you can.
Well, but let me explain why I agree with him. I first of all, he's right. And the reason he's right is because if you look at the picture from 1917, New York City, that's not real America, you will see nothing but horse carriages on the road. Everybody had a horse, and they had a carriage behind them. if you fast forward,
They're
literally,
still doing the park.
yeah, we used to take that ride. We used to go to New York 4 or 5 times a year. Now you look at a picture like from 1913, 1914. There was one horse in a picture, and the rest were cars.
Yeah.
There was no cars, and then the cars came. And when they told people with the horses that the cars are coming, they were like, "Oh, you're stupid. It's never going to happen." If you look at 2007, there were 2 leading people. I mean, you guys were already in America, right? You had a cell phone. Do you have a Nextel? You one of those Nextel phones you had to beep and talk like a radio? You never had a Nextel?
No, that was
you had a
before my time.
What about BlackBerry?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
BlackBerry's
so
flip phones,
BlackBerry and Nextel, which was with Nokia and Motorola, they were the 2 leading cell phone companies. They made all the cell phones. Then Apple said, "Screw you guys, we're going to make a phone that you can look at pictures and scroll down." They were like, "You guys are stupid. It needs buttons and stuff." And then Apple phone came. And then the Google phone came in 2007.
I met a guy other day in Florida. He said that he was making a killing owning a payphones, like long time ago.
Yeah.
Before cell phone even came out. He said he said, all my family had a job and all we had to go just collect
Quarters.
coins,
Yeah.
So he said he was making a killing because they made a law that you can have so many phones,
Right.
but once cell phone came out, that business died.
Yeah. And so the same thing happened to Nokia and Motorola in 2008. When was the last time you saw a Nokia phone
Yeah.
or Motorola phone? It's either Apple or Google, right? Android or Apple or iOS, right? So he's absolutely right. Everything evolves. Everything changes. Typically, technology drives it. I think we're going to see a merger of 2. I think you're going to see somebody like a title business people. They're going to come. They have a lot of money. Fidelity is one of the wealthiest companies on the planet. Fidelity is going to come and say, "You want to sell houses? Come work for us. Be an employee. We're going to do title. We have to do title. That law is not going to change. So as title, we're going to offer real estate services. And it could be online. You go in, you pick your menu. You want this title, you want this photography, you want this person to represent
And
you.
everybody gonna have review and
Right. So I see that transition happening. Amazon, I don't know if that's going to be their forte. They tried. Amazon tried. Amazon had a realtor program where it was called Amazon Realtor. You got to Google that. It failed in the first 3 to 4 months. They played with it. NAR didn't support it. NAR was like, no, absolutely not. And so that died. But they tried, so they can go back.
But I think you're all still gonna have a job. You just have to adapt and do something related with real estate agents. So I think as humans we always gonna have a role to play, but it's not maybe gonna be exactly what you're doing right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hope you guys learned something. And as you guys saw and learned, you guys can make your own takeaways and decide whether now's a good time to buy or not. But
and then we can meet again in 6 months and see who was right.
yeah.
Look, I wish we had a crystal ball.
Yeah. Okay. See you guys in the next one.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.
You can take away everything that I ever worked for. I'ma keep on pushing till I earn more. I won't ever fall. Won't never break. Won't never crack. Won't never split. Won't never stop. Won't never lack. Won't never call it quits. You ain't trying to hold me back, but I'll always find my own way. 'Cause I am a beast that you won't tame. I won't ever fall. Won't never break. Won't never crack. Won't never split. Won't never stop. Won't never lack. Won't never call it quits. Call it quits.